Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining Living Letters for the month of April. My name is Zugwai Togwai, the team lead for Zaza Development Initiative, and we're excited to have you be a part of today's conversation with our special guest and mentor. We have this amazing session of very informal conversations with young people across Africa who are in our spaces, who work across sectors and across various fields, and are willing to share their experiences, their journey, their challenges, and just help us understand that it doesn't matter where you are right now, it doesn't matter how far you've come or what situation you found yourself. There's someone who has been there, who is there, and who is willing to hold your hand and just keep the lights on for you. Zaza Development Initiative is a not-for-profit organization. We are focused on advancing sustainable development across Africa, and the bulk of our work is focused on civic education, mentorship, advocacy, and community engagement. We believe that for people, citizens, and just individuals to be able to actively participate in any sphere, they have to be well informed, they have to be knowledgeable about what they're doing. And so we do our own bits to educate people and enlighten them, and also collaborate with others who have better information in their fields to be able to share their experiences. So once again, thank you to our guest, Mar Yang, for being here. I hope I pronounced that properly. Mar is from Gambia, and he's going to be one of our mentors for today on Living Letters. Why Living Letters? Because we like to celebrate and acknowledge amazing humans while they're still living. And we believe in learning from people while they're still alive than just reading history books of people who are past. We would rather hear from the horse's mouth, in quotes. So that's why we do Living Letters. Thank you so much for being here, Mar. It's exciting to see you. And we will just go straight ahead to read his bio before we grill him this evening. All right. So for Mar, like I said, Mar is from Gambia. I'm going to summarize the amazing work that he's doing because he's doing so much. But for the purpose of we could just go through the whole bio since we have just one of our mentors present today. So please pardon us, but I think that he deserves the visibility. He's put in the work, so we deserve to give him visibility. Mar is a policy advocate and governance researcher by profession. He's a founder of Gambia Participates, a leading civil society organization in the Gambia that focuses on promoting good governance using research and participatory methodologies within and outside the Gambia. Mar also serves as the chair of the Common African Position Paper on Asset Recovery Civil Society Network, a continental network of civil society and international organizations working on anti-corruption, illicit financial flows, and asset recovery. He is dedicated and accomplished with a proven track record as a professional in spearheading projects and advocacy programs that address public sector corruption, election integrity, public finance management, parliamentary and government oversight, strategic litigation, judiciary integrity, and participatory democracy. He has worked with the Global Integrity as a governance researcher for Gambia for 6 years and with the International Budget Partnership as country researcher on the Open Budget Surveys since 2019. He is proficient at managing high-stakes election observation missions and leading impactful projects to enhance fiscal transparency and accountability. Mar successfully led the Gambia Participates election observation missions for the 2021 presidential, 2022 parliamentary, and 2023 mayoral chairmanship elections in the Gambia, deploying the largest number of election observers for the elections. He also led Gambia Participates international election observation in Nigeria and Sierra Leone, and has well participated in overseas election observation in Ghana and US. Mar has expertise in assessing electoral processes, ensuring fairness, and safeguarding against corrupt practices. His areas of specialization include anti-corruption strategies, project design and management, elections, fiscal governance, policy advocacy, capacity building, data analysis, and transitional justice. As an anti-corruption advocate, Mar has received prestigious anti-corruption awards, which includes the 2024 U.S. State Department International Anti-Corruption Champions Award and 2025 Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al-Thani International Anti-Corruption Excellence Award. He has led several successful policy advocacies, highlight of which is the legislation of the Gambia Anti-Corruption Act 2023, which he led the advocacy for over 5 years. He has also led Gambia pathways in two successful constitutional strategic litigations in 2021 on separation of powers and rule of law. I do not know about you, but this is like 1,000 people doing this work. I'm not sure how one person has been able to do all of this. A round of applause. Thank you so much for the amazing work that you're doing. We're super proud of you, and thank you for being a light, for making it look possible for us. So, to get running, we would like to start the conversation with Mark today with a few questions. I see that you have gone through the process, the whole journey. I know that some of us work in accountability, some of us work in terms of election observation, some of us are just focused on OGP, that's the Open Government Partnership. Some of us are focused on just fiscal policy, but you have touched on these various areas. And for us, it just means that you're able to speak to the wholesomeness of governance. So, having built this very powerful career influencing governance and anti-corruption across Africa, for young people who are working in policy or development, could you please just share with us some of the effective ways that we can get started and be able to build credibility from the start of our career? I don't know if you got that, but we just want to know how we as young people starting off can build credibility and ways that we can start off just like you.
Right. Thank you, Zigwa. Thank you for that introduction. And I'm greeting everyone watching this today and later on. And thank you for that amazing introduction about my career journey. To answer your question, I think life is all about experience, and experiences that you have experience in your life can shape the type of person you're going to be in the future. So, what led me to this work is not something that I dreamt of doing. It's not something that I woke up and they say that I want to be what I am today. I believe what set me to be who I am today was because of the experience that I had way back in 2012. In 2012, I graduated from high school and I was on a mission in provincial Gambia. So coming back, I experienced extortion of money, basically what we call corruption today, like some immigration officer or an immigration officer who was trying to extort money from a Senegalese in Gambian Sol. I was very young at the time, and I saw everyone seated, like elderly people seated, not doing anything, not saying anything. And later on, I totally understand why they could not do or say anything, just because of we were living in a dictatorship. We were in a very hostile political environment where you cannot challenge authorities. So for me, at the time, being young, what I saw was something that wasn't right, right? And I stood up for that, and came to the aid of that individual who actually was old enough to be my parent, but he was shivering, he was scared. Ultimately, I had to pay the price for standing over that person, got handcuffed and beaten, and put into custody for a couple of hours. And then later on, I was released. That's what shaped the type of person I am today. Since then, I started doing student activism in tertiary institutions, advocating for people's interests and their rights, despite the political environment at the time, and then start working with a law firm, building myself, reading a lot of case laws and judgments, law reports. Even though I'm not a lawyer, I'm still not a lawyer, but I started building interest in governance issues. But while I was reading law reports, things started getting worse for me because the judgments that I was reading, not even being a lawyer, any reasonable person reading that law report, or like say that particular case judgment, you will get to realize that there was miscarriage of justice. And most of those judges were mercenaries. I came to understand later while I get matured in this field. And for me, being a young man at the time, what could be the solution to this injustice in our country? Yeah, both human rights, economic injustice, and rampant corruption that goes unchecked. So those experiences what set me to founding Gambia participates, right? As the name implies, the idea was to mobilize citizens to participate in decision making, and this was in 2016, and I started mobilizing citizens, obviously on social media, going to streets, going to marketplaces, mobilizing young people, mobilizing women to come out, get registered, and vote, and then also countering the propaganda that was being propagated by the then dictator, because he had made many Gambians fear of voting for the opposition, because he made a statement that if you vote for him, he will know, and if you don't vote for him, he will know. And for us, we working in the space, even though we young, any reasonable person in the space will understand that we do what we call secret balloting. There's no CCTV, and you can actually cast your vote without nobody else knowing who you're voting for. So that's what we started, countering. And fortunately, we got an election where most citizens voted against him. But this goes to say that I wouldn't say that was as a result of what we have done at Gambia Participate. It was the combination of different efforts by Gambians and non-Gambians, especially Gambians in the diaspora, and also local Gambians that have been mobilizing citizens to vote against that current, the then political system. So that was shaped who I am. It all goes back to 2012, experiencing that. I don't think anybody else will want their son, their daughters, their mom, fathers being maltreated by authorities who only receive respect because of the uniform that they wear, who only receive respect because they have been given authority by our laws. But abusing those authorities is not something else that should be that should be unchecked. So rising to question power, rising to questioning abuse of power, or that is what made Mar today. And I think from your introduction, so many things actually followed suit, and we still continue to do the little that we can to consolidate our democracy, strengthen our democracy, but at the same time as well prevent the country from going back to dictatorship. And when I talk about democracy, I think there are different definitions, and I personally believe some definitions of democracy actually sits well with me. Right, democracy, the way it is practiced in certain parts of the world, doesn't mean that it has to be replicated. Right, I believe issues have to be customized to local context. And the most important thing for me is good governance, whether it is democracy or another type of governance. The most important thing, the bottom line here is good governance. Good governance in our communities, good governance in our associations, good governance in our national level. Once you have good governance, then people can live a dignified life, and the amount of injustices will be limited. Over.
Thank you so much. I will just pick up from what he said, where he mentioned the most important thing is good governance. And I totally agree. And that doesn't mean good governance restricted to just our elected or nominated officials. This is good governance even in our institutions where citizens also engage. Good governance pretty much translates to justice. Thank you so much for reminding us also of the need to read, the need to stay informed. I heard him talk about how he had to read. I heard him talk about how he had to stand up to the things that made him uncomfortable. A lot of times things make us uncomfortable, but we're too scared. We're too calculative to question these things and to also just do the right thing and stand up to the people or to the systems that are not doing right. So thank you so much for just highlighting those. And as a follow up to your response, this is just a side. Would you say that field experience, so for you, field experience versus research, which should we put more priority on when it comes to issue of advocacy, pushing for good governance, and the kind of work that you do? Is it field experience that is more important or research?
Sorry, you have to repeat it a little bit. I
That's
didn't get that
fine.
part. Yeah.
So, would you say that field experience, so your experience on the field, practical experience, is more important than research in the work that you do, or is research more important than field experience?
That's a difficult question. I believe they're both very important because what I first experienced was a field experience, right? Human experience. So human experience can actually lead you to doing more research, right? And this experience is, you don't create experiences sometimes, right? You get to find yourself experiencing certain things, and that will lead you to do more research. So I believe it could be either, but I believe they all carry significant weight of importance. Um, each cannot go without the other. If you're into research, right, you've developed knowledge onto something else. But if you don't go to the field to look at the impact of that research, whether it is research on science, whether it is on aerospace, whether it is in any other respectful domain. Once you develop a prototype, you need to put it out there to understand how it will actually work, and from that experience that you get to work towards perfecting that particular prototype or product. So I believe they are both very important. Fortunately, most of us, if you ask many advocates around the world and some genuine politicians, if you ask them what actually get them to influence them to get into politics or, in fact, advocacy, they will tell you it is experience. Unlike business and other areas where obviously it's about profit making, but most importantly, other businessmen, it's not because of profit making. Bringing in solutions to contemporary community problems is what actually catapult them to be business moguls. So I believe experience for me at the end of the day is everything. Field experience is as equally important as research, and each cannot go without the other. If you have field experience without the required theoretical knowledge, you wouldn't know how to develop solutions to those issues, right? Um, if you do research without field experience, then your product might not actually be addressing the goal of that particular issue. Even in medical science, right? Certain products that are being syrups or drugs that are being developed, they have to test them, right? And then some people unfortunately come with side effects and explain what those side effects are, and that's how they get to perfect those medications. So I believe they're all very important, and to advise any young person, I believe this will view both as very important and not to prioritize one.
Thank you so much for that. That was spot on. Thank you. So they would go hand in hand. It doesn't matter what field you find yourself, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Field experience, research, or knowledge search is very important. You need one at some point, you need the other at another point in time. So do not neglect one for the other. Still on our conversation with Mar, for those of us following the conversation, we have dropped a question in the chat box asking, have you ever engaged in any civic or advocacy work? Yes or no? So these are just questions to strike up conversation outside of what we're still speaking on, but still in line. Second question that we would be asking would be concerning long-term sustainable impact. You have led and contributed to the Anti-Corruption Act, which was, I think, at the end of your bio or your profile while I was reading, and I noticed that that was something you stayed on for 5 years. That is a long time for advocacy. And I am aware that realistically, a lot of us get tired, we get hopeless, and at some points we begin to doubt ourselves in this journey of good governance and advocacy drive. How were you able to do it? What does it actually take to move from idea to policy change? And how can young people stay resilient in the process with everything that comes your way, with everything you get to experience? Because I know it's not smooth still. How can young people stay resilient in the process of moving from idea to policy change?
Um, so I believe if you are okay, I don't want to use this common nomenclature or common terms where people say if you are determined. Obviously, that is what people say, and it's very correct. But I would say you have to be fixated on something else that you are interested in addressing with no string attached. And this, I believe, is something else that people need to really consider. If you have strings attached to something else that you want to achieve for the public, then it's not going to be a genuine advocacy. And as a result, when it becomes tough, then you will switch to another thing, and that will lead to inconsistencies. And the more you become inconsistent, the more you will be, you will lose track, and as a result, you will not be able to achieve something meaningful. So, it, like I said, the experience that I experienced in 2012, knowing after doing research, reading, knowing that we have a very weak anti-corruption law, advocating for such, and I still continue to advocate. As I'm speaking to you right now, the anti-corruption bill that we advocated for its passage in 2023, since 2019, the advocate, or 2017, the advocacy was on, and we didn't get the anti-corruption bill until 2019. And since then, we've done a lot of work engaging National Assembly members, bringing them together with with legal practitioners, advocates, experts to review, um, come up with recommendations. And along the way, we got frustrated to an extent. We wanted to go protest. We were prevented to go out and protest, and because in our laws you have to get permit before you can go protest, unfortunately. But yet still, right, we decided to use another route, right, another approach, to bring again National Assembly members, sit, discuss, and brought the Ministry of Justice, review issues, trust issues out. And that was in 2023, in June. In that same year, December 2023, we got the anti-corruption bill passed, and now it is our anti-corruption law. Now, That law cannot be enforced without the commission that is supposed to be established to enforce that law being in place. So the anti-corruption commissioners were confirmed by National Assembly members, part of the legal procedures. After their confirmation, they should be sworn in by the president so that they can start their mandate execution. Now, this was done in December 2025. It's been over 4 months since then, and we haven't had a word from the president. So I'm speaking to you. Last week, I had to write a letter to the office of the president expressing concerns over the undue delay in getting the anti-corruption commission established, because the only thing that stands between Gambian and having an independent anti-corruption commission is the president doing the ceremonial swearing in ceremony and give them their official appointment letters so they can start work. So I believe such should not be delayed by the executive or the president. If they have any issues with any of the commissioners that have been confirmed by National Assembly, there are procedures that should be followed and it should be made known to the public and be inquired. So for me, all these years, the goal was not to just get the anti-corruption bill passed. The goal goes beyond, in fact, getting the anti-corruption commission established. Right? We've seen across the region where we have anti-corruption bodies, what they call the toothless bulldog anti-corruption commission, and then we've also seen anti-corruption commission that got established just to tick boxes of international instruments, but in practice they become very ineffective and weak. So the goal is beyond just that. It's beyond just having the law, just beyond just having anti-corruption commission, but also to do oversight, support as well the anti-corruption commission in order to address these menace that we're experiencing as a country. Now, from just one experience in 2012, which was just personal, understanding it at national level and now at a global level, the impact, the consequences of corruption, I don't think any reasonable person can sit and watch corruption to eat our people alive. Because corruption has caused civil wars, corruption has caused disasters, corruption has caused the killing of a lot of innocent lives. So it's just beyond the financial aspect of it. And I think when you talk about corruption, the only thing that people look at is people stealing money, and it's way beyond that. So I have dedicated my life to this cause, and we have a very short life, unfortunately. All of us have very short life, and the thing that I also do are spiritually influenced. When I say spiritually, apart from the experience that I have, our religion taught us to stand for justice. Our religion taught us to stand for goodness and also to protect the rights of people. So if we see authorities abusing power to infringe violations on our people, I believe it is going to go against our religious teachings, right? Whether it's Islam or Christianity, both religion teaches us to stand against corruption, injustices. So one would like to leave this world not regretting the life that they have spent in this life. One would like to leave this world on their deathbed, um, being contented with the life that they have lived. It doesn't have to be someone else with millions, because those millions are not going to keep you away from death. Those billions and mansions are not going to keep you away from death. The only thing that you will be contented to be proud of the life that you have lived is that you have uplifted people, you have stood for people, and you have saved lives, right? And this could be done in any area. If you are wealthy, you can use your wealth to uplift people. You can use your wealth to influence good laws. You can use your wealth to address societal issues. And if you're not wealthy, you can use your voice to stand up for people. You can use your energy, your youthfulness to stand and defend people. So life is all about purpose. Life is all about what you make of it. And what you make of it has to be good so that you will not regret. So this is, I believe, some of the things that actually influence the work I do. There's contentment as well in it, right? There's peace in it when you achieve the goal. but it is also very rocky. It is very difficult journey, and I don't believe everyone can do what you were doing. Not everyone was appointed or appointed by God as messengers. Not everyone is also going to be a minister. Not everyone is going to be an advocate. So you need certain people in life that will stand up for people. And I guess that's exactly what you were doing as well with the Zaza initiative, bringing up people, sharing experience in order to craft our younger generation to understand life is beyond TikTok, life is beyond Facebook, right? There are people that really suffers while we do challenges on social media, dancing. There are those that could not even have access to these platforms. Their most urgent issue is to have food on the table, and most of them, if we have good governance, they will obviously not be struggling to have their daily 3 meals.
Thank you so much. I was trying to take that in carefully because that was a lot. I think we moved from my question to Mar went on the pulpit, he went to church, he went to the mosque, he touched every area. Whew, okay. So I'm not sure how anybody would not do some self-reflection just listening to you speak, because I can hear you asking us, what is our why? What exactly is that thing that keeps you awake? What's that thing that keeps you restless, even when things are not going the way that you envisioned they would? And now I'm getting to understand what that drive has been for you, even though I will still say it's like 10,000 men doing the one thing that's the many things you're doing, but I see you, just your name on it, but it feels like it's a work for 10,000 men. So I can only imagine what drives you. And I like the fact that you say at the end of the day, life is short. I think that sometimes we forget that part. We feel like we're going to live forever and there's always tomorrow. There's always another opportunity. I will do it later. Or I'll jump on something else. What if you are not there to do something else? What are you doing now? What can you do now? Life is really short and it's not something you can bargain. It comes for all of us. So, and you do not know what exactly have you been able to leave behind. How have you made that positive influence? Thank you so much for highlighting these for us. Cool. A quick follow up on that before we go to the last question. How do you measure success in governance work? Because it feels like, and from what you've said, it feels like, based on my experience and also from what you've said, you're doing something and it feels like there's something else that needs to be done. You said beyond the act, implementation, beyond this. At what point do I say, oh, I've been able to, how exactly do you measure this governance work? Because it feels like there are 1,001 organizations doing similar things, but we still have these issues cut across different spaces. Did you get that?
Yes, I got it. Trying to ponder how to answer that question as well. A very difficult question once again. I guess I'll turn on my video in a bit. I
That's fine.
I mean, how do we measure success in our governance work? I don't think I have a one word or one sentence answer to it. uh, for me, why do we do governance work? Why do we do good governance work? Why didn't we just choose to be in the private sector and just care about making money and live a good life, and perhaps even use that earnings to support people? You can be wealthy in a country. If you don't have good governance, your wealth is nothing. You can be innocent, right, without having much, right, and your innocence can be taken away from you by an administration, and you will not have nothing come out of it, right? You will not be able to have a peaceful enjoyment of your life. You will not be able to practice your religion. You will not be able to enjoy your property, your land, your business. You will not be able to drive on paved roads. You will not have businesses thriving. Basically, you will not have access to goods and services, because if you have a very corrupt administration, and then you have a very bad governance, then your life is at risk. Your life is at risk, and you are one step away from losing everything that you've worked for. Now, this is why we get into the field of governance, right? First, it starts with the community, standing up for your community, because you might have seen someone else doing something that is not acceptable. Someone has taken the land of the community and personalizing it. So the land that belongs to the community, where women and men farm in order to live, also let's say support their livelihood and the education of their children, has been taken by an individual just because the person has power and has connections and support from so-called powerful people in governance. Now you've deprived that particular community from their source of earning. Now you will see someone else rising up to protect the interest of the community. You don't expect everyone to understand it that way, because others might have that fear. Now, the success of that is the community's interest being protected, the community being able to reclaim their land, the community being able to plow and farm on that land and continue supporting their livelihood. Now, that's one success that relates to a particular community, right? What is what that teaches us is, or any individual in that community, if you want to stand up and abuse people's right and take their land or their property, the community will come out, and there is a certain voice that will come out and protect the interests of the community. So that is what we call sustainability in the governance field. Accountability also is about deterrence, and actions that we take have long-term deterrence mechanism or firewall, if I can put it that way, because mankind is such that if they know the consequences of their action, they are more tend to act in a rightful manner, right? So accountability have to be predictable, right? If you know, if I drive recklessly and I got caught by a police, I will be fined and I will perhaps lose my driving license or go to prison. I will drive reasonably and then abide by the road traffic code. But if you are in a situation or in a country where the traffic rules are not being respected, police, traffic officers do not enforce the law, and the court also do not take it seriously, I will drive recklessly and I will just keep smashing people's cars, people's property, and take life, and nothing is going to come out of it. But if you address it, that's also one success. So that's the reason why I said I don't think I have one answer to your question, but to sum it up, I believe the success that we can measure in our governance work is for the people to be able to live a dignified life where justice prevails, where no one is above the law, where everyone live and coexist peacefully while respecting each other's right, and allow people to live their life with within the limits of the law.
Thank you so much. Um, I apologize for putting you on that hot seat, but I needed to ask that question. I hear sustainability, accountability, and deterrence. Deterrence. And I would just like to do a call to action for as many who are listening. A lot of times we have people pushing for sustainability, we have people pushing for accountability, but I think somewhere along the line we've lost the deterrence part where we do not uphold consequences to actions. So people feel like they can actually get away with things, especially when we feel like the law doesn't apply to us. So we need to get back to working with all of this together, not in silos. Sustainability, accountability, and deterrence works together. Thank you so much again. As we get to the end of our conversation, we still have a question to ask. And given your experience across election observation, now we're talking about election observations. We have read in your profile how you have observed elections across different countries, Nigeria included, and the US, and Sierra Leone, Ghana, and Gambia, and so many others. How what role should young Africans play in strengthening democracy, and how can they move from just awareness to influencing? Um, Having had this experience across different spaces, I want to assume that you've also gotten to relate with young people in these different countries, and you've gotten to see how these different systems work and the diversity of these systems or the context with which they operate. How would you advise young people in terms of strengthening democracy to be able to move from just creating awareness, from just conversations online to actually influencing these issues? What are those critical skills that they need to leverage, and how can they be able to leverage them in ensuring that these systems actually work?
Um, that's another important question, and um, if you see the areas of intervention and my area of expertise, that is why I also chose the elections and public finance and anti-corruption. For me, I believe those three are fundamental in any society, right? Elections is the bedrock of any progressive um, democratic society, right? If people do not get to choose who should govern them, right, then they might not be able to hold that particular individual or administration accountable. Um, and if elections are not credible, if elections are not fair, then you don't expect that administration to be a credible administration. You don't expect that administration to respect and uphold human rights. You don't expect that administration to provide basic needs to citizens. So I believe if people have the franchise and the will to choose who they want, their will must reflect the decisions that have been made. And this just go beyond electing an individual. It also goes down to the electoral bodies responsible for the administration of elections in every country. We have to make sure that we exercise oversight on them. That's why in many countries, I believe in Nigeria, your INEC, the I there is independent. In Gambia, the IEC, the I there is independent, right? In many countries, you will see that the I in name of the electoral management body. So they have to be independent, meaning they must not be influenced by the oppositions, they must not be influenced by the incumbent, they have to be independent in their decision making. So now I believe what I need to tell young people is election is where you get to reflect your past 5 years. Has it been good or otherwise? Right? If it is otherwise, election is the moment for you to change the ways by electing an individual, another administration, and give them the benefit of doubt that perhaps they could do better while being while exercising oversight and constant monitoring of their campaign promises. So if people don't get to participate in elections, they are leaving the minority to decide who they want to be the next president or parliamentarian. And if many people fold their hands and then do nothing, the law is just the law. It has given you the opportunity, and then you have sat on your right and allow others to choose a government. Now, what that does is you don't get to remove the black ships, the obstacles that stand between the country and its ultimate goal, whether it's economic progression, democratic progression, good governance, or whatever you call it, right? If you don't remove those black sheep through elections, once they are elected, any other attempt to remove them, except for legal means, it will be described as a rebel. And I think this is accepted globally, right? If you have administrations, the one of the few ways to remove them is through elections. The legal way is impeachment. In Western world, the other means is exerting pressure on that individual to resign. Unfortunately, that doesn't work in Africa. I have not. It's just 1 out of 50 where you will have an individual resigning from the office of the president or being a parliamentarian because of the pressure that is exerted on that individual from the public. It doesn't work, unfortunately. So if you don't have such individual respecting people's dissent in order to step down and get a replacement, then election is the moment that you need to take that opportunity. But most importantly, um, removing all, not only removing but monitoring what happens in the electoral process, right? Who are those responsible for vote buying? Who are those responsible for voter suppression? Who are those abusing state resources for political expediency and campaign financing? All of these, there are just so many issues attached to it, and we need to not be myopic and just looking at the election day, voting, or this is the party that wins, and then that's it. Most people, you will see an individual winning election on the ballot, but in their guts, they know the election is not fair because the whole stuff started from the registration, the campaign financing, right? The election day is just the formality where people come in and decide, right? But most um, groundwork has already been done, and it might have been done in a very wrong way. So this is the reason, and I'm not sure this will allow us to do a lecture to understand why people need to vote, but I believe understanding this fundamental factors is important for people to take charge of the rights that is given to them by the constitution. People must not sit on their rights and allow few people to decide for their future.
Thank you so much. Do not sit on the lines and allow few people to decide your future. The result you see on election day is not decided on that day. The result you see on election day is decided way ahead with the work that is being done in the background. How are you engaging as young people? How active are you? How well do you understand the system and what goes on within the system? Thank you so much for sharing once again. We really appreciate your time. And as we wrap up, we're going to do a quick response session, not the whole explanation, but then just sharp questions, three top questions, and we just want to hear your response for our young people. And here we go for the three questions. First one: what's the one mindset young Africans must develop? One mindset young Africans must develop.
You seem to be having a very tough questions, and I'm not good at giving a short answer. Unfortunately, for most advocates,
Okay.
it's very common for most advocates that you will not have a short answer. But one mindset that African youth must have. I guess this is a bar exam question that would require paragraphs of answers. But I think the mindset is people need to have this this progressive mindset, right? Not to look at the immediate benefits of what you are doing, not to just limit your shall I say personal goals on something that is really short term. Um, whatever goal that you have, right? Make sure that you consider, right, the risk in achieving those goals, and one of those risks is the political part of it. In our advocacy work, we do risk analysis, and there's always, in any type of tool that you use, there's always the P in your risk analysis, which is the political risk, right? Today you might be enjoying a very good democracy, tomorrow you might not. The world is becoming more unpredictable. We have seen democracies crumbled on the and shattered in just within a day or so. So I feel that the mindset that we need to have, okay, you have a goal, but at the same time, protecting your goal, you need to engage in good governance. You need to ensure that you maintain and sustain good governance, without which your goal could be fired. Today, we've seen countries where children have goals. They wanted to be a doctor. They wanted to be something else, and the world has turned away from them. Let's look at what actually happened in countries like in Myanmar or Gaza or Iran. Babies' lives taken in just a second, right? So if you don't have people standing up to protecting those innocent lives, right? Next time it could be you. So I guess our young people in our African continent, they need to start not depending on our politicians to do every single thing. You've given them authority, but it should not be the usual way of complaining. We need to push the hand. We need to push the pen, all right, in advancing good governance, in advancing the interests of our public. Now let's look at Kenya. If the young people did not rose, I mean, if they didn't rise up during the money bill protest, things would have been different, right? If and this is why Gen Z's young people just decided to come out, risk their lives. If they had not, rise to the occasion, life would have been different. What you see on paper as a policy, and you're like, oh, this is just politicians, are just politicians. The moment that policy or bill becomes a law, it is binding. And in our advocacy work, we are taught that we must not see law to be non-existent, no matter how bad that law is. As far as it is a law, except it is not repealed either through legislation or a case law, it is a law and it has to be respected. People can make laws to give unlimited power to Zigwa, and Zigwa could do whatever she wants to do, because we allow the system to be bent, to favor her. So the reason why I'm saying this, we've also seen in Nepal, young people rose, Gen Zs rose to the occasion, demanded for accountability. It cost certain people a lot, but they ultimately got what they wanted. So success don't come to you easy. Freedom is not something that you just buy. You fight for your freedom. Everywhere we go, you need to fight for your freedom. So, like I said, we are not trained to be giving short answers in our advocacy work. But if there's only one mindset that people should have, especially young people, is they need to know that success and sustainable peace, sustainable freedom, sustainable democratic advances, sustainable good governance doesn't rain from the sky, right? You protect it by rising up to the occasion.
Thank you so much for that one word, one very powerful word. Okay, we have just two more one words. So, what's the one skill that we cannot ignore in the next 5 years? One skill. So I'll just lump it with the last one. What's the one skill we cannot ignore in the next 5 years? And then what's one piece of advice you wish you knew at 25?
So the one advice for every young person is read, read. And I'm not a big fan of reading, to tell you the truth. Um, but I'm advising people to read. And why am I advising people to read? You understand issues when you read. Today, the Bible is in written format. You need to read and understand the Bible, understand your God. The Quran is in written format. You need to understand and you need to read and understand the Quran. In fact, the first word that descended on the Prophet was Ikra, which means read, right? So people, you need to also read your Constitution. You need to research and researching you were reading, and we had this conversation in the beginning. So the technology has have significant impact on our youth folks. We have AI chatbots. They've obviously contributed towards making life easy, but life in itself is not easy, right? We need to research a lot. We need to read a lot, understand contemporary issues. And I think technology has become so addictive to young people that this thumb has become a problem, right? Scrolling. People have become, especially young people, they've become so impatient to be fixated on one thing, right? Just scrolling up, looking at browsing through the news and see what is happening. People barely spend 3 minutes or 5 minutes on a particular post, right? Um, that is just you just have like millions of information being shared, and you cannot process and address those millions, and that's why most of our young people are they are becoming victims of misinformation. They are becoming victims of political propaganda on social media. Um, so I guess people should take the step back, read, and understand issues, and that will influence their action. And then when I say read, there are certain things that you need to avoid not reading. There are those that have actually come up with very unpleasant books that can influence you to do something very bad. Um, there are people that have very crazy and wild ideologies. So you need to also be very careful what you read. Even when you are reading those, put your guards on, put your guardrails, have a guardrails, have parameters, and make sure those things do not influence the person that you will end up becoming. Um, so that's my advice. The skill, I think people should just, based on what they want to be, they need to work on perfecting themselves or increasing their skills in that particular area, whether it's in aviation or um, in arts and medicine, building, architecture, science. I guess it's such that you cannot just have one skill, and I cannot just give one skill and say this is the skill that people need to look into. But I believe whatever you want to be, make more research. It still goes back to the issue of reading. Make research, understand the field, build your skills, improve on your skills, practice until you perfect it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We should read. I'm not sure that thing is going to go out of my head. Read, but be careful about what you're reading and what you're taking in, because again, you have to read with discernment. Not everything readable is beneficial to you. Thank you so much, Mar. We've had an amazing time. I have had an amazing time just listening to you speak. Thank you for being very vulnerable. to share with us. Not everybody is open enough to just share and allow us to learn. And I'm sure that for as many who were online and as many who would watch this after, we'll have a lot to learn. And just to say that you can follow Mar's work online, please don't go scrolling. Actually, stop. He writes really chunky. So you need to take time to actually read what he's writing to be able to understand and learn from what he's writing. Thank you so much. I would just say for a few take homes for me, it will be understand your why, understand why you're taking the decisions you're taking, understand what you have within the space that you belong in or to, or your field or sector that you can use to influence decisions. And at the end of the day, it's not just about you. How can you mobilize other people? Because at the end of the day, again, you cannot do it on your own. How can you mobilize more people to drive that thing that has been a burden to you and for you? How can you ensure that beyond just the 10 minutes or 5 minute decisions on the floor of the house in terms of policies, there are actually steps, sustainable steps that are taken for implementation? And at the end of the day, it cannot end with you. You need to be able to keep the lights on for other people coming after you, because sustainability also has to do with people who are able to take the baton and run with it. As Mar said, we are not living here forever, and you never know when your light goes off. So the quicker you hand over the baton and you keep that journey going, the better for all of us and the communities we belong to. So once again, thank you so much, Mar, for coming. I don't know if you have any words before we close out for today. You have the
Just
floor.
to appreciate the work that you were doing, I believe you are doing an amazing work. I believe you could have actually come up with a talk show where people talk about music and other stuffs, but you are doing an amazing and much needed work in this time that we live in. And it might be very long, like I said in my discussion, 1 hour for someone else to spend 1 hour listening to something else. But experiences, stories is what shape who we are. If you read the Bible, most of it is about stories, right? If you read the Quran, it's about stories of people to shape you and to understand those before you, how they've lived their life, some good, some bad, and what has been their consequences. So I think what you were doing is an important work, and I really appreciate and thank you for that. Guess this is what we need the most. People are now looking for content. You could have come up with a content that will get you millions of subscribers, but what will have been the benefit? The benefit will only be limited to you, and then others could be swayed from the reality of life. So the work that you are doing, do not underrate it. Do not look for, and then what I do when I do my mentorship in country as well, I tell people, do not work in order to please sentiments. Do not do stuff to please people just to get likes. It's very easy to get likes. There are certain content you put them out, you get likes, you get your content monetized, and you become famous, but for the bad reason, right? So even if it's one person out of the million that gets to change because of the initiative that you have initiated, that is a success for you, and that's a legacy even after you live this life. So you should be proud of yourself, and I encourage you doing. When I encourage many young people to do more. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. We appreciate you once again. And we hope that we get to work with you also in the future. Looking forward to actually come experience the field with Gambia participates one of these days. Thank you so much again. Do have an amazing rest of the weekend. And this is it from us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. We appreciate you. We thank you for joining this session, and we look forward to having you engage in our May Living Letters series next month. Our Living Letters series is usually every last Saturday of the month. Please, 4 p.m. Nigerian time, invite someone to watch with you. You can have a hangout with friends and just go over conversations we've had. We bring together young Africans who are doing amazing work across different fields. Are you an entertainer? Are you a dancer, a tech enthusiast, a cybersecurity expert, policy advocate, finance person, tax related person, civil servant, name it. We have amazing young people across Africa who are doing great things, who have done great things, and who are willing to share their journey with you. So connect with us. We have had this series going on for over a year now. We started in February 2025 and it is April 2026. So if you have never binged on our conversation, you have a long way to go. You can pick on any of them and just watch. It's Zaza Development Initiative on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and on X, formerly Twitter. You can also check out our website. It's zazadevelopment.org. Reach out to us via email if you have any questions, if you would like to collaborate, or just speak more about the work that we do. Thank you again and see you soon.